I do want to introduce our first guest who rose to stardom by making people laugh. But behind all that laughter, there was a lot of pain. In a doctor's exclusive, here's his story.
I was on a show called Last Comic Standing, and from that I got offered my own show called The U.S. and Ant. And I also got offered a Celebrity Fit Club. My career was doing one of these. I was making millions of dollars a year. I had multiple homes in many cities. I had a boyfriend who was gorgeous. The fame was getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and the stakes were getting higher and higher and higher. And on the last episode of the 6th season, one of the producers walked into my dressing trailer while literally I have a belt wrapped around my arm, and I'm ready to shoot a mixture of crystal meth and heroin. And that's when the jig was up. And I got a phone call shortly thereafter saying, "You're not coming back." It all came crashing down. My story of recovery is twofold. I was sober for 10 years, and then my disease started telling me I was cured. I would come home every day going, I don't deserve this life. And I don't know if my drug addiction sort of seized on that, never feeling quite good enough. And then my partner was diagnosed with an incurable illness and died. I had one drink, one night, and the next thing I know, I'm slamming heroin and crystal meth, wondering, how did I get here? I think the pain of losing my partner was so great, I think I was trying to slowly kill myself. You know when you meet the one, he was the one. I was high all of season 6, either snorting, shooting, or smoking it on a 16-hour day, probably 15 times. I'm wearing long sleeve turtlenecks and trying to hide track marks through bad real estate decisions and just actually buying drugs. I probably went through about $600,000. One day I got a knock at my door and they were like, "Nobody sells in this neighborhood without our approval." And I went, "No, I'm using it all for myself. I'm not selling it." And one of them looked at me and he goes, "You're doing that much meth on your own? Dude, you need to cut back or you're gonna die." When your drug dealers tell you to cut back, I did not want to die with a needle in my arm. So I got clean, I asked for help, and I went to treatment, and my life started getting a little bit better. And then my first year in treatment, my sister was killed. And when my sister was killed, that was probably the biggest bottom. People go, "Oh, time heals all wounds." It doesn't get easier, it just gets different. When the phone rings, I don't expect it to be her anymore. And then my best friend hangs himself. My dad died. But this time I had surrounded myself with healthy people who I just met in recovery, and they carried me. I've been clean 6 years. I go to recovery-based meetings. I work as a drug and alcohol counselor. I do stand up at night, but I'm not happy. There's a second me living inside me making the worst possible choices, and I can't seem to say no to it, just like drugs. I don't want to die. I really don't. But if I don't do something to change, that's where I'm headed.
As he said, Ant may be in recovery for his drug and alcohol addiction, but there is another addiction that's taken a hold of his life. If he doesn't make any major changes soon, it could cut his life short. He'll be with us after the break.